Earlier this year, I made the decision to have hardware removal surgery from my right foot, and it was not an easy decision to make. I had a midfoot fusion on my right foot in July of 2024 and had 4 screws in 2 plates to fuse the first and second metatarsals along with a bone graft. The surgery did fix all of the instability caused by my Lisfranc injury, and it helped with a lot of the pain that I had started to have after the injury. Walking was a lot easier, and most days I was easily able to walk a minimum of 3 miles. Some days I could even walk up to 7 or 8 miles a day, although on those days I did need to take breaks and ice my foot. I did have some lasting trouble with the hardware though, especially when I was driving. I think it was the repetitive motion with the pedals causing irritation with the muscles and tendons against the hardware. I have some days where I have quite a bit of driving for work, and some days my foot would be so painful and swollen after driving that icing didn't even seem to help that much, and my foot would be super stiff and painful the next day. Sometimes it would take up to 2 or 3 days to recover from longer drives from work, and it was also hard for me to stand in place for more than a minute or so at a time, so standing in lines could be really difficult sometimes because the hardware would make my foot become really painful and still when I was standing still without moving. I also noticed a bump on the inside of my foot, which was possibly scar tissue buildup around one of the screws. The bump made finding shoes that fit well super difficult, and I often had to buy sneakers that were wide or sandals that didn't have a strap that hid that particular part of my foot. That bump began to get pretty painful about a year and a half after the surgery, in addition to the scar area above where the plates were placed also being painful, and so any shoe that pressed too hard against the top or the side of my foot was just very unpleasant. When I talked with my surgeon about hardware removal, I really was not excited about the idea of another surgery because the recovery from the midfoot fusion was a pretty rough one for me since the original injury had caused some pretty severe damage and the memory of that surgery was still pretty fresh in my mind. However, I decided to go ahead with the hardware removal anyway because the surgeon seemed confident that it would be a straightforward procedure and also a much easier recovery, and I was feeling really ready for driving and to be an easier time for me. The surgery was scheduled for May 1st, 2026. I still had a lot of the equipment that I needed saved from the last surgery, like my shower bench and crutches, which was really helpful. Thankfully, my job was also very easy in working with me for time off after the surgery and also giving me some work from home days so that I wouldn't have to worry about anything while not being able to drive after the surgery. I panicked a little bit the night before the surgery and worried about having made the right decision. I was afraid that the scar would take a long time to heal like after the first surgery, that I would have to extend my time off work, and all kinds of other things that could go wrong kept coming to mind. My husband reminded me that since we had gotten through the first surgery together, that we could get through the second one much more easily, and that helped me settle down a lot. I knew he was right and that this surgery had to be easier than the first one. My parents also called me the day before the surgery to plan out how they could help the day of the surgery since they lived nearby, and knowing that they were going to be meeting me at home after the surgery to help my husband and me really helped ease my mind and just made me feel much more at peace. I also received a get well card in the mail from my best friend the night before my surgery that absolutely cracked me up, and that helped relieve a lot of the nervous anticipation that I had leading up to the day of the hardware removal. Thank you so much for listening. I'll have a video coming out soon about the surgery itself. In the meantime, I hope that you are all doing great.